Hey team, welcome to week 2. In this week's episode, I'm going to recap week 1's challenge, break down how I think I did this past week, give some notes on where I think I might want to try and do better next time. And then I will draw this week's challenge, the 2 archetypes that we want to both embody and dwell within. As a reminder, the purpose of this exercise is to help your consciousness both expand and ascend. Expand by embodying different material personas, and ascend by dwelling within different spiritual places. By combining these 2 archetypes each week, you will help expand, ascend, and grow your consciousness. All right, looking back to week 1, as a reminder, the challenge was embodying the Empress and dwelling within the world. Now, these are 2 archetypes that I wouldn't say come naturally to me. Over time, you'll probably get a sense for where I gravitate to, but I would say that for the Empress, I can understand the perspective of the Empress, but I don't seldom judge and make decisions the same way the Empress does. So for me, I was thrilled to kick off with this challenge. I think it's an area I definitely want to try and be more aware of, embodying characteristics of the Empress. And for the world, I think maybe that's an area that I gravitate towards a little more naturally. However, I think there are some common elements of it, like I emphasized last week, of the connection, of the nurturing that sometimes isn't my default state. So for me, going into this week, I was stoked to try both of these archetypes. And then when I looked at what the actual canvas of my week was, it was a busy week for me. My team, both my team and my leadership team, were traveling in the office this week. So I had a lot of people visiting town. Which gave me many opportunities to practice being the Empress, a good nurturing host as folks came to visit me in my hometown. Always a good opportunity to showcase some of that hospitality that the Empress is so well renowned for. So really, I think when I looked at what my week was giving me, I had many opportunities to practice this. Additionally, for those of you that are in corporate culture, you know what offsite weeks are like. If you don't know corporate culture, you're basically in meeting rooms for double-digit hours per day, trying to talk about esoteric strategic concepts, and then after you go out and hang out for drinks, whatever after. Really can be a fun time, but also I think by day 4, folks are normally pretty worn down, fatigued to the whole experience. So I was definitely prepping for some strained emotions by the end of it. With that in mind, I think the world really presented me with a unique challenge of how do I move past maybe some of my own objectives of the week, some of my own politicking, maneuvering, strategic accomplishments I'm trying to pull off. How do I look past that? And 1, look to the bigger corporate vision, super exciting, right? But 2, the bigger human vision, find where it unites all of us and pulls us together, and where I can actually see past what we're accomplishing that day, that week, that month, to the broader goal of eternity. Anyway, so a lot of words to say that this week presented me with some great opportunities to practice the Empress and the world. I tend to give myself a numerical rating on these archetypes at the end of the evaluation period. I'm not going to do that for this right yet. We might get to that phase, but I think for now, it's best if we focus on just the experience of the archetypes and not the over-analytical assessment of how we are doing. I do think, again, maybe revisit that in time. But I think these both felt a little bit uncomfortable at times for me, but I was very happy to remind myself to anchor to them. I remember specifically, there was probably day 3 where we were really sitting in a meeting where we were trying to do some new story mapping exercise, we call it. If any of you are familiar with product development, digital product development, it's a task to get yourself ready for sprints. Make sure you're building efficient sprint backlogs and hopefully getting better efficiency, delivering more core sprint over time. So really, actually, I found it a great exercise, and something that I saw a ton of utility for the team doing. However, what we had been practicing at the beginning of the week became much more challenging at the end of the week when we threw a bunch of cooks in the kitchen. And all of a sudden we had like 10 people per group trying to story map. And for the quick TLDR of what this is, it's like breaking down what you need to do in the most menial level and then assigning the effort and the impact to each of those. Anyway, by this point in the week, folks were no longer playing as nice in the sandbox as they had been earlier in the week. And there were a lot of different opinions on how we could structure what we were trying to do from a story map perspective. Like, we were just hitting roadblocks. We couldn't move past simple discussions at this point. Where my natural inclination was maybe to go in with a little more heads-on approach to forcing progress. In this moment, I really called myself back to these anchoring archetypes, the Empress, the world, and thought to myself, how can we maybe move forward in a way that we all can have consensus and alignment with, and not just me be like, yo, this is what we're doing now. With that in mind, I really did try and embody the Empress. I sat back. I looked around at the abundance around us. I thought, how can I make us feel more relaxed and comfortable before we try and move forward with a decision? I reinforced the snacks that we had. I asked everyone to take a 5-minute break, given that moment to give us the rejuvenating creature comforts that maybe would help us be in a better mind space to make a decision. I'm not saying that did the trick, but when we came back, we were in a better place. We were more productive. We did make progress. And I think regardless of what the group did in that moment, I felt better about how I was able to think about what the group needed and not just what would be the typical response from me in that moment. So I think that was probably one of the high points of me remembering this archetype and utilizing it. I used it pretty frequently, but I think this was a moment where I felt like I understood how to step into that and to bring it into the room. When we talk about the world archetype, well, this was one that I definitely felt the needs of myself being pulled in many directions this past week, both at work, but as you know, it was kind of inferred, I didn't travel this week. Folks were coming here to visit. So while many folks were able to leave their personal responsibilities behind, I had my family still here with me. And while my wife really took on, I think, a oversized share of the work this past week, I did everything I could to really carry my typical load from daycare drop-off, daycare pickup, and typical household responsibilities where I really could. Now, for me, I felt like the whole world was asking too much of me, and there wasn't enough of me to give. And it was important to remember that just being present in the moment and giving everything I could was all I could do. And maybe there's demands I feel on me, and maybe I feel I'm not giving enough. But getting lost in the hypotheticals was not helpful. Being fully connected to and present in the moment was much more prudent, and for me, probably like mentally helpful. I think if I was thinking about all the things I couldn't control and worried about all the day-to-day nonsense that was probably going to slip a little bit, it would have made last week much worse. But by really trying to be focused on the connection I have to the ebbs and tides of our lives, it didn't feel as big of a deal. So there you have it. There's the week 1 recap. Was thrilled to kick off the year with these 2 archetypes. Now I'm really excited to see what week 2 brings. Week 2 Tarot Challenge. Embody strength. Dwell in judgment. Now, At first glance, these cards seem quite different. Strength seems more quiet, internal. Judgment feels very loud, boisterous, you're going to hear it. But while they might be very different expressions, they have the same underlying driving current of transformation, courage, and pulling you to that next threshold. Both show us that true power comes from within, that we achieve transformation through courage. They express the alchemy of the self. Strength shows that moment where we integrate the animal into the composed higher human being. And judgment shows when we leave behind our past and answer that higher calling. And in doing so, they really echo themes of liberation and freedom, where strength, we are freed from that instinct, and judgment, we are freed from that past, that guilt. Strength gives you the courage to face yourself and your worst instincts. Judgment gives you the courage to answer the call and ascend to a higher power. Both cards, while appearing vastly different on the onset, have this underlying current that I think will synthesize really well together this week. So please join me in this week 2, where I invite you to embody strength and dwell within judgment.
Embodying strength. I do not overpower what frightens me. I befriend it. My strength is not loud, it does not rush or harden. It listens, it waits, it places a steady hand on the trembling parts of me and says, "You are safe." I meet my instincts with compassion, my fear with patience, my anger with understanding. I do not chain the lion within. I calm it. I breathe when pressure rises. I soften when I could strike. Choose courage that comes from presence, not force. This is my discipline. To remain open when it would be easier to close. To stay gentle when the world demands armor. I trust my inner power, not the kind that dominates, but the kind that endures, the quiet resilience that keeps showing up, the steady heart that does not abandon itself. I hold steady in the fire. I do not flee discomfort. I stay with what is difficult long enough for it to transform. My strength is love under pressure. My strength is patience in motion. My strength is the courage to remain human. I tame nothing by force. I integrate everything through care. This is what it means to embody strength, to lead myself with kindness, to face life with an open heart, and to know without doubt that gentleness is my greatest power.
Dwelling in judgment. I am no longer asleep to myself. I have heard the call. And once it is heard, it cannot be unheard. Judgment is not punishment. It is recognition. A moment when the noise falls away and the truth of who I am rises to the surface. Clear, undeniable, alive. I stand here without disguise, without excuses, without the weight of who I thought I had to be. The past does not accuse me. It instructs me. Every choice, every failure, every misstep has shaped the voice I now recognize as my own. I rise, not because I am perfect, but because I am ready. Ready to answer life honestly. Ready to live in alignment with what I know to be true. The call does not come from above. It comes from within. A resonance that says, this is your moment. Step into it. I forgive what was. I release what no longer fits. I reclaim the parts of myself that were buried under fear and habit. There is no rush here, only clarity. I choose responsibility over avoidance. Awareness over denial. Purpose over comfort. This is what it means to dwell in judgment. To live awake. To meet each day as a response to truth. To let my life become an answer rather than a question. I do not fear being seen. I do not fear being called forward. I welcome the light because I am ready to live by it. I rise. I respond. I am reborn. Not as someone new, but as who I have always been.